kind of an impromptu clips and dip happy hour after some weird news this morning from the Clippers. I am Chuck Mockler. We got people coming in on the live. Adam Oslin is here. Will Updike, of course, is going to be here at some point. We're going to have this out on audio as well. But if you're watching us, thanks for watching us over on X or on YouTube. Before we get into everything, I think it was been a big week for Clippers fans, Adam. Very up and down. How are you doing with this chaotic?
I think this is a line from Archer, but it goes something like, I'm beset on all sides by idiots. And that's how I've been feeling today.
You've been arguing with people who don't have profile pictures on Twitter, and you don't have to.
Yeah, shame on me. I've been having a rough day. I think the Kawhi news, which we'll get into, just has me especially irked. Some of the stuff that was said Monday with Paul George on the podcast and people reacting to that and talking about it got me going a little bit. It's just been frustrating, man. It has. I have to be honest about this. Later in the show, we'll end with something positive as always, but it has not been an easy week for Clipper Nation so far.
Yeah, so we're going to talk Kawhi news. We're going to talk the possibility of a Zach LaVine trade. Miles Johnson is already wanting to talk about that, but we're going to get to that. And then we're going to talk Ivica Zubac fighting people in Greece, which is crazy. I don't know why you would ever fight Zubac.
That's how angry I was today. I would fight No.
You would fight someone the size of Ivica Zubac. Right. So Kawhi leaves Team USA. And people were at first freaked out, which I think is fair. Of course, if you're a Clippers fan and you wake up to the headline, Kawhi Leonard leaves Team USA early, it's not like your head's going to go to the he's probably fine. That's not going to happen.
But you're assuming the worst.
You're assuming the worst if you're a Clippers fan, which makes sense. But
so
then
we read the statement.
Yeah, go for it. You have it pulled up. We have the technology to share screens.
I have so many damn tabs open. I'm just going to read it.
You're arguing with everybody.
2024 USA Basketball Men's National Team update on Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi has been ramping up for the Olympics over the past several weeks and had a few strong practices in Las Vegas. He felt ready to compete. However, he respects that USA Basketball and the Clippers determined it's in his best interest to spend the remainder of the summer preparing for the upcoming season rather than participating in the Olympic Games in Paris. Unquote.
Lucas Hahn had an interesting take where he was like, maybe this is just the Clippers were caught like being like, we don't like what happened with Wiggins, a quieter version of what happened with Wiggins in Team Canada.
Do you think that emboldened them? I mean, if they're doing this with Wiggins, we could sure do this with Kawhi with his injury history.
Does that seem incredibly far-fetched?
And I understand coming into this, we talked about Kawhi playing in the Olympics. Were you for it, against it? How did you feel about it as a fan? It was mixed, obviously, but there was a contingent of fans saying, he hasn't been able to finish the last 4 seasons as a Clipper. So they didn't want to see him playing in the Olympics and putting further wear and tear on his body, on his right knee, which I think to some degree is understandable. However, it was his decision. It sounded like it was a bucket list thing for him to get a gold medal. I think he was supposed to do it, the last time around or something like that, and wasn't able to.
Yeah, something.
Kawhi Leonard, certainly it meant something to him. He wanted to do so. But when the reports started to come out, and this was within the last week, and he talked about how he had a turnaround within the last 2 weeks, health-wise, that was a little bit of a red flag to me. And then when he said the knee is currently at neutral status, that was kind of a red flag to me. It just seemed like the swelling, if we're going off a timeline of the last game he played before it was March 31st against the Charlotte Hornets, then we're almost at 3 months before the 2-week period where he is saying he had a turnaround of swelling in his right knee for something that is not structurally an issue. according to whatever MRI they got.
I think they got at least one. We know they got at least one.
Right. They said there was no structural damage. I have been extremely honest about my feelings about this injury. I even said on the very last show that I'm not trying to fearmonger or be an alarmist, but I will be monitoring Kawhi Leonard very closely during the Olympics to see how he is, because that practice session he did in front of Steve Kerr and Ty Lue and Lawrence Frank is just different than 5-on-5 work.
And what Brad Turner's piece said, that the practices were up and down, was the quote, which we saw what up and down Kawhi looked like, an extreme version of it in the playoffs this year. So I think it was probably a thing where it was like, I don't know. I'm not super upset about it though. Now
I'm more concerned than I was earlier today. I have to be honest about that, because I have had this dark cloud regarding this injury, only because when people were saying they're saving him for the playoffs, they don't want to get fined, I pushed back immediately and said that game against Denver that he missed, guys, was a huge seeding implication game. There's no way, if there wasn't something going on, he wouldn't have played that game. And then they said he was just saving him. They were saving him for the playoffs. And it's gamesmanship. And all these people got mad at me about that. And I said, I don't think it's gamesmanship, guys, because he didn't play against Denver. That had huge ramifications. They ended up winning that game, by the way, anyways. But I never bought into it. Oh, they're downplaying it. He'll be fine once the playoffs come around. And what the other thing I kept saying was, I'm not so much worried about Kawhi playing in a game in the playoffs and trying to play and testing it out. What I'm worried about is how he responds the next day. And guess what happened? He looked pretty good in game 2 overall, and then game 3 was a complete shell of himself.
Terrifying.
And said afterwards that the knee didn't respond the way we wanted it to, and probably should have been pulled after his first stint with how bad he looked, hanging on the rim, not wanting to land on the floor. So now moving this forward, the initial injury apparently took place against Charlotte on March 31st.
Right.
You look great in that game. We're talking about 3 months ago now. And now we get a report from Shams Charania. I don't know if you saw this, because I just did. I don't know the exact context, because he's saying Kawhi has been dealing with chronic soreness in his right knee. Does that mean was dealing with it before? Is that
from the piece today?
Team USA? Yes, that was. We could play the clip of him saying this.
I don't want to give Sean. He doesn't need free promo on this show.
Sure.
But
he said he wasn't going full speed at Team USA practice, which would also go against him practicing fully if it's not full speed. Now, whether or not you want to believe that report or not, he's no longer with Team USA.
Right.
So it sounds like there were two options that Clipper Nation has been ruminating about all day that has a little bit of dread in the air. Is it he looked pretty good and they just want to save him for the regular season and make sure not to put any wear and tear on his body, knowing that they are going hard in practice, knowing his injury history, and they just want to do what a lot of the fans wanted him to do, which is just wait for Clippers basketball to put pressure on the knee? Or the other option is he didn't look good, it hasn't fully healed, and it's saving him from himself and possibly re-injuring it, worsening it, exacerbating the injury. I don't know. Skip Bayless came out earlier today and said he got a scope.
Yeah.
Whether or not you want to believe Skip Bayless, I can't stand
it. That's your right as a
troll. People have said in the past, though, he has been on with some of his intel on Kawhi Leonard. Okay. I don't know if that's the case.
Like
but
when
people
he said
have
he was going
wondered,
to the Lakers.
Right. But people have wondered if he had already got under the knife, if they already checked on it, given the knee being swollen for that long.
That is fair. And I like that thing you said about the three outcomes maybe that Clippers fans were thinking about. The last one you said was like the Clippers kind of were like, oh, saving him from himself. I don't know. Based on how we've seen them treat Kawhi, I think it's maybe option one, right? Because they kind of done whatever Kawhi wants after the trade. And I don't think at this point they would be like, no, you can't play. I think it was maybe more in like an amicable split, maybe. That's what I'm choosing to
I
lean
agree, because
towards.
they can't do anything. If Kawhi wants to
They
play,
can't
they
piss
can't do
Kawhi off.
anything
Yeah.
about it. They have no recourse if he is adamant that he wants to play for Team USA. It sounds like it was a collaboration. He understood where they're coming from, and considering the terminology he was using with the knee being in a neutral state, I'm sure he had his own concerns regarding it. And knowing that he just had a turnaround 2 weeks before, maybe if it had responded better and he really felt good, he would have argued his point of staying there and seeing how it goes and wanting to play in tonight's first game against Canada. But if the Shams report is correct, that's much more worrisome and concerning.
Yes. And we are not going to know if that report is correct until we get some kind of notification, maybe a Lawrence Frank statement. We've talked about the dreaded impromptu Lawrence Frank statement or impromptu Lawrence Frank press conference, because they can announce if a scope is going to happen, a knee checkout, whatever. They can announce it kind of whenever they want because it's the off season. So we'll know about it much more after the fact.
Would you be surprised if 3 months in, with consistent swelling, chronic soreness in his knee, if he hadn't had a scope yet? Would you be surprised by that?
Yeah, I think I would be surprised. I would be like,
Dr. Schaap is not in the building, by the way.
I think I would. I guess I'd be surprised because you think they'd want to check it out. I'm fine
Just
with the scope to check
constant
things out.
swelling for 3 months.
I'm fine with the scope to check things out, but if he gets a scrape or something like that, then I'm a little more antsy.
The other thing I stressed
Depending
immediately
what your expectations are for this season.
Well, remember, the initial injury was listed as soreness in his right knee. And the one thing I stressed was it's his right knee, guys. It's the ACL knee. It's the meniscus knee. It's been the troublesome leg going back to the tendinopathy.
We were freaking out on that live. That's a very funny one to look back on. That was not a fun.
Apparently, we were right to be concerned.
I know, that sucks.
I think we were on the right track. It wasn't gamesmanship. He wasn't fine. He could barely go in the playoffs. And Shams is saying there's still an issue.
Yeah.
I love Kawhi Leonard. I feel terrible for him. He spoke about how his journey's been different as an athlete because of all the setbacks. But it is his journey. And I thought said something very strong and inspiring at camp with Team USA, saying, I'm going to go until I can't anymore because I know I'm motivating others who have dealt with injuries in the past. He also, or down the line, future generations, they could see it as motivation. Kawhi kept pushing through. And he also wasn't feeling sorry for himself. He said there's players that have dealt with much worse. Almost like, I'm the luckiest guy in the world type stuff.
Yeah, Paul George dealt with craziness. Yeah. It's not, I don't know, because it's not like you think about the expectations for the Clippers too. They weren't going to win a championship this next upcoming season. I don't think.
Certainly not if they don't have Kawhi.
Well, certainly they don't have Kawhi.
Really tough to make any argument for them being in the championship conversation without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
Right. Do you think now with the lesser expectations, we're going to see some more, not what we saw last season, let's just say, in terms of how many games Kawhi played? Do you think I think there's going to be more hanging out?
Well,
and
one of the
managing an injury. I'm not trying to make light of the fact that we need to manage it.
If anyone still has an issue or makes fun of the Clippers for wanting to load manage Kawhi Leonard at this point with everything he has been through, you're shameless. You're insane. You have no perspective.
This is not how I wanted him to beat the load management takes, but unfortunately it seems like that is how he's beat. And this is a great point by Miles Johnson. I don't think we would be a lottery team without Kawhi, but we might be close. But I don't know.
I just know whatever they try at this point is probably warranted because they've tried a lot to manage this knee issue. But somebody said earlier today, and I've heard a lot of this, and this has been going on for years too.
Years.
And it just really bugged me earlier today. They said this: just save him till the playoffs. Hello, they're not making the playoffs if you don't play Kawhi some in the regular season, guys. Have you seen the Western Conference recently? And then he got after me saying, oh, that really instills confidence in the fan base. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Should I not be somewhat realistic? Should I be completely out to lunch? It's crazy. I have had people come after me on both sides the entire time I've been lucky enough to get to work with the Clippers. Some saying I'm a mouthpiece for the organization and you can't trust anything I say. Others saying I'm too negative. Which is it, guys? I guess I'm being objective if everybody's getting on me for something. I can't do anything right for them. I just know this. If the number one option is missing for any of the top teams in the West, they're not making the playoffs. They could make the play-in, but they're not going to be a top 6 seed. Is Denver a top 6 seed without Jokic for a season? Can they just sit him and wait till the playoffs? No. I don't think you can do it with Ant-Man. I don't think you can do it with Luka Doncic. I don't think you can do it with Kevin Durant. I don't think you can do it with Steph Curry. I don't think you can do it with De'Aaron Fox. I don't think you can do it, and no, you can't, with Ja Morant. I don't think anybody who's missing their first option has a chance right now with how competitive the Western Conference is. Because, Chuck, look at this. Who's getting worse right now in the West? Honestly, who's significantly getting worse? Is OKC significantly getting worse?
No, they just signed Isaiah Hartenstein.
Is Denver getting significantly worse? The Nuggets,
depending on who their backup
significantly?
Okay, yeah. No, not significantly.
Minnesota.
Stasis, right?
At worst.
Yeah. You
could make the argument, obviously, Ant is going to get much better. The Dallas Mavericks. Okay, they lost Derrick Jones Jr. They brought in Klay Thompson. I wouldn't say they're significantly worse.
See.
I'm not picking them to make the finals or even the Western Conference finals, but
I think we might have to wait and see because of Klay. I don't know.
I still wouldn't say that's significantly worse because they still have Luka and Kyrie.
Sure.
They didn't lose either of those guys. Phoenix, are they significantly worse?
No. I don't think, right?
The Lakers?
TBD.
Pelicans?
No.
Just brought in DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
Could have better injury luck with Zion. Sacramento just brought in DeMar DeRozan. They were the 9th seed. Golden State brought in Buddy Hield. Are any of these teams getting much worse? Because I know Houston's going to be better likely. I know Memphis is going to be better. San Antonio's going to be better. Utah, yeah, we'll see. There just aren't a lot of teams that are giving you a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. So, yes, if you don't want to play Kawhi Leonard the entire season and just save him for the playoffs, I don't think you're making the playoffs. Maybe the play-in, maybe. I think that would take a lot still because it's so damn competitive.
How many games from Kawhi do you think the Clippers need to be a play-off team?
I am open to listening to some crazy stuff at this point. Not crazy like he can miss the entire regular season. I'm open to listening to play him twice a week. See how he responds to that. Play him 3 times a week is at most. See how he responds to that. No back-to-backs. I am open to all these things at this point. How can you not be? How can you not be?
You are picking things up. You are hurling them at the wall at this point. Which, I mean, it's hard not. Yeah, I think we might see some revolutionary.
I desperately want Kawhi.
Go ahead.
I want to see Kawhi Leonard still at the peak of his powers. That's what I want to see.
We all want to see that.
I want to see Kawhi healthy. Whatever it takes to get him healthy is what they should do.
I think we're going to see some revolutionary resting from the Clippers training staff this year. I don't mean that in a big way. It would absolutely be valid. The man,
yeah.
It's not.
I don't want to hear Stephen A. Smith. I don't want to hear any of these guys go after the Clippers when there is somebody that's dealt with so many injuries the last 5 years, and they're trying to preserve him the best they can.
And it's like what you were saying. Like, unfortunately, it's like no one's going to sit here and be like, I actually think he's fully healthy. It's not.
He doesn't like playing basketball.
Right. Like,
really?
And
Did you see him hanging on the rim, scared to drop down from it in game 3?
That image is your night terror.
I
feel like
the notion that Kawhi doesn't love playing basketball when he gave it a go in that game with how bad he looked.
Here's the other thing with, hey, we're talking Kawhi. Will Updike's here.
Talking about, fellas.
We're talking Kawhi, and then we're going to talk LaVine, and then we're going to talk Zoo fighting people.
Adam, I've never seen your hair this down before. You're in the mud right now, my man. Bro. You're in the dirt.
Down and out.
He is not doing well. Welcome to all the people in the chat. Will Updike is here. Thanks for hanging out. We're just using slang. Thanks for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for listening, because we're going to put this out on audio later. Will, how are you feeling about the Kawhi Leonard saga? Adam, I would say, is more down in the dumps. Adam is, as this person is putting it, distraught, which is fair.
Distraught indeed. Look, it's not completely unexpected, right? Like I think I was, I said that I approved of him playing in the Olympics, especially like him playing high level competitive basketball. Look, anytime Kawhi Leonard is doing that, I think that's ultimately a good thing. You can talk about mileage. You can talk about whatever you want. The only way to really know how that knee is going to respond is to play at the highest level of competition, because that's his ultimate goal, right? Is to play at that level with the Clippers. And
that was the best argument, by the way. Will Updike coming up with that was brilliant. I don't know how anyone could argue against wanting to know how his knee responds now rather than waiting till game 1 of the regular season.
So I was initially also pretty distraught. It seems like this was just, I don't know how drastic it is. You know, like my initial thoughts were the worst, that he was physically unable to compete after just training. Now, from what it seems, is that this was more of a mutual decision that was met with the organization, with the big wigs, that it would be better to save him for the regular season. So I don't know, with how closely this organization plays things to the chest, does that mean that there isn't some sort of procedure on the horizon? It's really hard to tell. But I'm choosing to believe that, that they saw what they needed to see through training. I'm hoping that he feels well, and this is just out of an abundance of caution.
Did you see the Shams Charania report saying Kawhi Leonard has been dealing with chronic knee soreness, not being able to play at full speed in Olympic competition? I'm told, Shams, that was the biggest factor. The Clippers have also been concerned about further damage in that knee. That is a report from Shams. Doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's totally accurate. He certainly has been wrong plenty. It's not nobody, though. He's one of the big 3. It's him. It's Woj. If it was Woj, I'd be more concerned, probably.
I agree with you, and I do think that is credible. At the same time, it's just like the diametric opposite of the report that we saw the other day about how he looked in training. So the answer's got to lie somewhere in the middle, right? Like maybe there is some stiffness, some soreness, but it's, I don't know. Like if it's still going on at this point and he's not able to play competitive basketball, I just don't see a world where there isn't a procedure on the horizon.
We were talking about that. Yeah.
That's
how is that remotely a possibility? But still, to go back to my original point, I'd much rather that happen in July than October.
My biggest concern is, are we talking about the same soreness for 3 months since March 31st? Is that what we're talking about still? Because that would seem very worrisome, right? The same surgically repaired knee. Is that not fair? I'm not trying to at all be an alarmist. What are we talking about? It's Kawhi and it's that knee. I think we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't at least bring that up. Like, how do we not? How do you avoid it?
You avoid it by not getting hurt. No, I don't know. There's absolutely no way to avoid it. It's a weird, I don't know. I guess we just wait for the news dump. We wait for the Woj bomb and hope that it's a successful whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like,
this is
also
a pretty quick turnaround from like just the statements the other day when Kawhi was asked about like what it means for him to lead the Clippers this season now with the departure of Paul George. And he said it was basically the same, which I loved.
Yeah. Someone saying, yeah, no more back-to-backs for Kawhi again.
Yeah. Do whatever.
Okay.
Adam was saying only play him every 2 days, Will. I was saying we're going to see some revolutionary.
I said I'm open to any ideas, including that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
because someone told me, Will, just wait till the playoffs. It's like, you wait till the playoffs, you're not making the playoffs. He has to play some in the regular season.
Yeah, I don't see a situation where the Clippers, the Clippers without Kawhi, would have to fight and claw to a play-in position. I would think that's an untenable situation. Look, the thing is too is like there's just no guarantee. Like I do think like they're not playing back-to-backs. That's an obvious. I think that should just be implemented by basically every team for a star level player who plays 36 plus minutes a night. That it's just ridiculous. There's no
lengthen the effing schedule. You are running into baseball and nothing else. You've adjusted before for other reasons. I think you could do it, NBA, if you really wanted to.
It would be nice, or just keep the same amount of time but make it 62 games. Cut 20 games off.
They won't do that.
I know.
That's too much.
There'll never be less games. There'll never be less games. I don't actually
make the quarters 25 minutes long.
I don't fully understand, though, why the season couldn't be a little longer. Like, obviously, you don't want it to start earlier because of competition with football. I get that.
Completely.
But why couldn't it go later into the summer? There's just truly...
They've done it recently.
Just not a lot going on, and that's no discredit to the WNBA. It's no discredit to the Stanley Cup Finals, but like the competition is much harsher in fall than it is in summer. I guess is all I'm saying.
If you add a month, you can get rid of back-to-backs. I'm pretty sure. That's it. Add a month, and you're ending in July. Okay, what's your competition in July? Is the Australian Open then? I don't know. I guess that tells you all you need to know about the competition.
Australian Open? Is it
if Federer ain't playing Nadal, I don't give a shit.
All right, coming up, we're gonna talk the Zach LaVine thing because everyone that's been the hot. We're doing haggle no haggle on trading for Zach LaVine. That's coming up after a very quick audio break because we're gonna make this live too on the audio. And we'll be back in 2 seconds with Zach LaVine talk.
All right. We're back in. We're talking Zach LaVine after talking Kawhi's unfortunate exit from Team USA basketball. Let's talk this LaVine thing. Who wants to start? Adam, you're all in on this move, correct? Let's get your take first.
I want to. Okay, you take it, and then I want to point out something very funny. And then
Zach LaVine has been, admittedly, one of my favorite players for some time. I think I mentioned on here, people don't realize this. He shot 38% from three at UCLA in his one season. He's always been a good shooter. People try to pigeonhole him because of the dunk contests as just a dunker. He has one of the best shots in the league, in the NBA. It is as smooth and as beautiful and as on point and Ray Allen-ish as you can get. Close to that. It's nice. Now, does he have his own injury concerns? Of course he does. Is he still, 27 or 28? Is he younger than Terrence Mann, Zach LaVine? He might be. He might be a little bit younger. He's 29, so he's a year older. His contract ends when he's 31. His last year is, I think, $48 million as player option. That's not ideal. of course, if he balls out in his first 2 years, he's opting out. You don't have to worry about that last year. There are more free agents that will be available in that third year that you may be looking at then. But here's the kicker for me. The only way I'm entertaining it is if, at least in my opinion, they're still offering that first round pick that was rumored, the Chicago Bulls, to get off of his contract.
Sure.
To me, that is pretty meaningful, not just for a team like the Clippers, who don't have many, but if you get the Bulls first round pick, that very likely could be a lottery pick.
Counterpoint, because he's had 2 surgeries on his knee and he had foot surgery last year. As a Clippers fan, after what we just talked about,
I'm aware of it all.
Gives me butterflies.
20 games last year. I get it.
25. So the what? I'm helping your case.
I know.
So the trade package, because of I'm going to say this, and you're going to hear this phrase a lot on this podcast, apron stuff. The Clippers would have to include Man or Zoo. So it'd be like PJ, Norm, Man, or PJ, Norm, Zoo.
It's not going to be Zoo.
It's not going to be Zoo, because that would be who's protecting the paint at that point. So it's probably, in this hypothetical, PJ, Norm, and Terrence for like Zach LaVine in the first round pick. To me, if that is what we're looking at, I get worried because we're losing our best scoring option off the bench, and it just kind of throws things a little into chaos, I think, bench-wise, and I'm worried how they'd be able to recover from that. And you're kind of asking 2 guys who have injuries to play a lot because their depth isn't going to be there. So, it's not there now. But
in Zach LaVine's defense, I do want to say he has played 60 or more games in 4 out of the last 6 seasons.
Yeah, but last year he played 25, so that's
1 year.
And
very recently.
The Bulls, there appeared to be a little bit of a rift that they thought he didn't need to get the surgery. He could have rehabbed through it and continued to play the rest of the season, and he instead elected to get the surgery, which ended his season.
I'm not going to knock a guy for getting a if they're like,
I'm not either.
If the team is saying, like, just play through it, I'm like, maybe just get the surgery.
Yeah, anytime you try to call in sick, most employers are going to say, how sick?
We're going off of 25 games, which sounds like it's a much more severe injury, when really it was just, okay, it's a foot injury. He's out for the season, when there was this other possibility maybe he could have played through it. So therefore it wasn't as severe.
But what about the context of we're losing? PJ, obviously no one here watching, or unless he's watching, is going to be mad about losing PJ Tucker in a trade. But you're losing, like, Norm, I'm sure losing Norm and Terrence together feels scary to me.
My point would be, like, I don't love that either. I'm banking on the first round pick. I'm banking on Zach LaVine being healthier. The only reason he's available, someone this talented, is because of health concerns, and the Chicago Bulls have been imploding for years and couldn't find any traction with that group to really build anything around. And some people view Zach LaVine as empty numbers. I don't see it that way.
Oh, I don't think he's empty. Yeah, that's the other part. I don't think he's empty numbers. He's a phenomenal shooter.
I'll tell you.
I don't want it to make that, because I do. He's a Seattle guy.
Fair. I look at what we're dealing with right now with Kawhi and think about, how do you supplement some of this scoring if he is going to be missing more games? Now, if you say, well, Zach LaVine's going to be missing games too, so then how does that help you? I am assuming, based upon his overall track record the last 5 years, the type of surgery it was, he won't be missing that many games. And the first round pick. And it's like, look, if you don't think this era is going anywhere anyways.
Oh, the era's over. The PG left.
And you can get a first round pick. I don't know. And still be really competitive.
But
I'm not with it. I don't think, I gotta be honest with you. I think I'm not with it. I don't think at $48 million a year or whatever I'm in on the LaVine move, that to me feels like too high of a price to pay, both given the rotation players that we're giving up and like a first round pick. Like, yes, it's solid, but like for 3 years at near max money, like I gotta be honest, I don't see it.
Let me.
I don't want the
this.
Clippers to take a big swing or take on another big salary
We're
at
not
all.
winning
To be
a chip.
perfectly frank, yeah.
LaVine comes. We're
not a LaVine away from a contender. Like I don't see it.
The first round pick is big, but let me ask you
the
this:
first round pick is huge. I'm not.
Is it worth $150 million?
Well, if you're still under the cap anyways, which they will be, what you're losing are those players. But let's say that the contract negotiation with Terrence Mann being extension eligible isn't going great, and they don't think they're able to retain him for a price that works for the Clippers cap situation, because that's really the only way I think they would entertain giving up Terrence Mann if things aren't going well in that area.
That I mean, if Terrence, I've been on the like 4 for 90, 4 for 100 for Zoo train, and I haven't really thought about the Terrence extension, but I wonder what the Clippers haven't been in this position in a minute, right? Being able to extend a guy who's been with the team for this long, who was drafted by he's the longest.
Which is precisely why they should do it. Like,
no, I agree, but
this is a trash franchise if you can't keep your homegrown talent, like especially for something like this. I don't know.
I'm interested to see how this goes for them, because everyone's talking about the 2 for 60 offer to Paul George. I think that was just the first offer. I don't think the Clippers sincerely assumed that Paul George would take 2 for 60.
Others are pointing out
in the face by it.
Can we kind of debunk this a little bit? Fair. And also, can we point this out? Some are saying, well, if he opts into the last year and then takes that deal, it's $107 million, not $60 million. You're starting at $107 million is what you're really offering him. Is that a slap in the face? To start off a negotiation talks at $107 million after he had only played, I think, 87 games combined the last 2 seasons, wasn't available the last play-in game for them against the Pelicans, wasn't available in the playoffs against the Phoenix Suns. I don't think that's that crazy. His value at the time, context-wise, was not that high going into this season, Paul George. I think people forget that. He upped his value by having one of his most efficient seasons and playing over 70 games with the Clippers.
Excellent point. I think Chaim Spencer has a good point, saying Mann has to step up offensively this season. Part of that's opportunity. Now that Paul George is gone, this is his chance. They don't have to get the extension done before the season starts, I believe. It's just that it's eligible. So I like this take. He's going to have more opportunity, and we've looked at his per 36. Will, you and I did this on Locked On Clippers a few times, and I think we did this on Clips and Dip. You look at his per 36, and it's the same 4 columns and rows basically.
All you got to do is play him 36 minutes.
Just play him 36. Which, I mean,
well, and they are like 45 games over 500 when he starts the last 2 years.
We're not far away from him play. Like it's not like we have a lot of depth right now. So I like this take from Chaim Spencer.
I'm also like, I'm not saying I'm in the camp that some people are, that, Terrence Mann is like this completely untouchable asset. I just think like with where you're at right now, I don't really get giving up the asset for an older, more injury-prone, 4 times more expensive player. I guess is just where I'm at personally.
Let me throw this in there.
Come on.
You're talking about losing that depth. How else are you going to open up opportunities for the young guys? Is that ever going to happen?
Well, Terrence and Zoo, I think, have absolutely earned their spots in the starting lineup.
No, but I'm saying you're talking about Norman Powell coming off the bench. Like,
no. Norm, yeah, but I mean, who's replacing Norm right now?
If you did trade Terrence Mann and Norman Powell, Kobe Brown's going to have to play. Jordan Miller's going to have to. Guys, those guys are going to be 25 at the end of this season. Jordan Miller and Kobe Brown, 25 at the end of this season. Like, are we ever going to see these guys? If you're saying
no, they're not very good.
No, well,
how can we know?
No from management. I think Kobe Brown. So this is
Bones.
I mean, the Bones thing. Well, hey, Bones has the path now. It's not. I mean, Chris Dunn and him are going to be competing for that second.
We're talking recently. There's been a theme here that you have to open up opportunities for young guys. One of the ways to do that is to trade 3 guys for 1. I'm not saying it's an ideal slam dunk trade.
We just already don't have that much depth.
We'd be real bad.
We're not where the Clippers are at right now.
What do you care?
I don't get it.
If you're saying they don't have a chance, why shouldn't they be building for the future and giving young guys opportunities?
Yeah, but how does trading for a bigger star achieve that? Wouldn't that
because you're still trading at least 2 guys that are soaking up a lot of minutes with Terrence Mann and Norman Powell for 1 guy.
Mann isn't old enough for me to, because if they want the max slot in 2026, I think keeping Mann helps that scenario.
Okay.
You keep Mann and Zoo, you got a 2 guard and you have a center locked up. I like the first round pick idea though.
That's what has me interested in this. That's what it always was. As much as I like Zach LaVine, it's the first round pick from a team like Chicago. If that's true, it was a report.
How come they haven't found a deal for LaVine yet?
He does make a lot of money. Not a lot of teams will be able to absorb that and that are under the cap like the Clippers are.
I got to be honest. I like the LaVine thing. I see the pros to it. I do think it's interesting, and I am all in on, at least if we can't win, bringing in electrifying players. But at the same time, I don't know that Zach LaVine has proven that he contributes to winning basketball. And I just, again, not to bring up the apron again, I don't want to beleaguer this point to death, but with essentially a hard cap, how many teams are really willing to give up $48 million a year to a guy who who historically has not contributed to winning?
So this is, I don't think he's been in good enough situations to know for sure, but I don't think it's unfair what you're saying.
I read a crazy stat about Will and I. We saw Kinds of Kindness, wonderful movie, but I read a stat that is burned into my brain. Zach LaVine has had like 104 teammates in the NBA since he's been in the league. 74 of them are out of the league.
He's had some bad.
That's
guys,
crazy.
Bad
he's been around some shitty teams. I'm not on team. Let's trade that for LaVine, but that is crazy. He has been in bad situations. He's not exactly going to an elite one here. It's a little discombobulated, but the management is good. Obviously better than the Bulls. This is a great point by Junction too. But I don't know. And there's some time, but I think what to expect from the Clippers, I'm not saying this is right. I think from what that nugget we heard of wanting the spot for the 2026 max, if you look at it's kind of a weird list of people who are available. I just don't think they're going to do that move. I think they want to be a play-in team.
I mean, I'm not making the argument they're going to do it.
Oh,
I'm
no,
not
of course.
Making
no,
the
I wasn't either. I just wanted to yeah.
I don't even think it's an easy decision. Would I lean towards doing it? If the first doesn't have many restrictions on it, probably.
Yeah.
Because it's Chicago and the Clippers don't have any. I at least would really have to mull it over, as much as I love Terrence Mann.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And again, the extension thing, I don't know. What can we offer Terrence? Is there anyone who's watching who can put in the chat how much we can offer Terrence?
I don't have the cap sheet in front of me.
That's fine. I don't have it.
You want me to Google it?
Yeah. Why don't you goggle it? Yeah. Adam's opening it up. If you're listening to the audio of this, you just missed Adam doing a classic physical comedy bit. We're going to come back in a quick break after these audio ads, but we're not going anywhere on the video. We're talking Zoo fighting people in Greece and then whatever other random stuff coming up right after this.
Welcome back in. It's Clips and Dip, a live version of it on YouTube currently at Clippers Podcast on YouTube. At Clippers Pod on X is where you find us. Am I right in that, guys? I haven't said it in a long time. Is that accurate?
Clippers Podcast on YouTube, Clippers Pod on X. I think you nailed it.
Let's go. I'm Adam Moslem. We got Chuck Mockler. We have Will Updike. And we have a lot of kind of a motley crew or potpourri of Clippers news this week. Just some weird stuff going on.
A potpourri.
A mix.
First time. That's the first time that word has been said on this podcast.
A nerd rainbow rope of Clippers news.
Nerds rainbow, yeah.
So Ivica Zubac got into a fight, and we saw the very end of it on TMZ.
Yeah, him and Saric were having to throw hands at a club in Greece. And the men fighting these two NBA players were not the size of people you would think would fight NBA players.
That's where the alcohol comes in.
Yes, and all the smoking. A lot of smoking indoors over there. What could have possibly happened for these people to have tried to fight Dario Saric and Zubac? I'm on their side fully. I'm on Zoo's side in any fight. Zoo is, if you've ever been around Zoo, he's not like...
I got something that might change your tone.
Oh, no.
A bunch of people approached Zoo and they said, grow your fucking hair out. Grow your hair out.
No. He's like, I'll cut it right now. He's got to grow the hair out. If you're new to the stream, we have a theory. I don't know if Adam's fully on board with this, but Will and I had a theory on Locked On Clips that if Zubac grew his hair out or got extensions or got a wig and had it like shoulder length, he would get more foul calls. He snaps his head back so much and he doesn't get calls. I think he's getting more calls with the long hair.
Hey, guys, someone's saying Kawhi will have to play the 4 again next season if we get LaVine. He's playing the 4 right now.
Yeah,
who's playing the 4?
Okay, so hi,
you
I'm
think
Spencer.
Batum's starting? You think Derrick Jones Jr. is starting at the 4? It's Kawhi.
Spencer's saying Man is eligible for roughly $22 million year extension. No idea if that's true, but we're using that as a reference point. I think I'd give Zoo and Terrence both like 4 for $90.
Wait, what's long hair Zoo getting?
Oh, long hair Zoo? Putting up 26 and 13. He's getting the mat. Whatever. I mean, however much money we can give long hair Zoo.
Did someone heckle Zoo at the place saying, like, I know the Clippers lost Paul George, but you're still not getting 30 minutes a night this year? Like, he better get 30 minutes a night is what I'm saying.
He has to. Our backup centers.
He got less last year than the year before. If Zoo doesn't get 30 minutes a night.
Yeah. We're going to be upset. Venkata wants Zach LaVine. So Adam and Venkata are on the same side there. Brandon Ingram, don't think we can get both. I think Walker Kessler's staying. And Jeremy Grant, I don't know. I don't think Portland doesn't want anything that we have.
Doesn't he make $35 million? I'm pretty sure he does.
Something crazy.
He got 5 years, 160 just last season. So he's making, so this year's 29, then 32, then 34. Then he has a player option for 36 in the summer of 2028. I mean,
he's making a lot. And they want picks. They're still far away.
Yeah.
Will, is there any NBA player you would challenge to a fight if you were at a nightclub?
Chris Paul's short ass.
I think Chris Paul's beating your ass still. Isn't he? How tall is he?
How's he going to reach me?
He's probably as tall as you, Will.
He's
just feet, short next to.
He's 6 feet tall per Google.
Yeah, but that's an NBA measurements.
That's fair.
He's 5'3".
Yeah,
and Montrezl Harrell was 6'10".
What's he in Daniel Turu's shoes?
Did you guys read the Trez Players Tribune piece?
I saw some of the highlights or the lowlights with him talking about Paul George.
I thought he was fully in the right with Paul George. I was completely on Trez's side. Call him out. We're trying to be a championship team.
Oh, if that's what happened, I agree.
Call him out. Yeah, well, sure.
I think a lot of people are also speculating that Trez was the one given secrets in that athletic report that came out right after that season. I don't know.
Well, maybe Paul George was.
They said it was clutch. It was a clutch hit job on Paul George.
I don't know if that was Trez. I don't know. I don't
know either. I love Trez.
Bring him back. Bring him back for the backup 5.
saying he's still having trouble responding from the injury.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't heard a lot of players on their podcasts or in other spaces say that, Paul George is like a teammate that you love to play for or play with.
That's fair.
Ask Reggie.
Yeah, ask Patrick Patterson. Ask all his bad friends who came over to the team.
Reggie was good.
Reggie was good. Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about this too much. Scott Bossy. You should go by Scotty Bossy. Will, what did you think of the podcast stuff?
Didn't listen. Why would I listen? He's not even on our team. What do I got to listen to the Draymond Green podcast too?
I like
every player's podcast.
To be fair, you didn't listen when he was on the team.
It was bad podcast. I don't know. It just felt like he was I don't know.
I just saw the highlights. Like, I'm assuming the majority of people did as well. Like, I get it. Like, there's just no revelations. Like, I don't know. I've never watched or seen, like, heard something from the podcast P episode and been like, wow, what a revelation.
There was just a tweet. We had a Kawhi. We have a quasi Kawhi update, I guess.
Well, let's get it.
From Ohm at Notorious OHM on Twitter. Asked Grant Hill if Kawhi Leonard's inflammation flared up or if he had a setback. He didn't want to get into specifics other than saying USA basketball just felt we had to pivot and everyone gave it a try. Hill indicates USA felt decision had to be made and helps Kawhi and Clippers.
You guys feeling better or worse?
Worse is my immediate reaction.
Yeah. I think if it was all good, he would have been like, no, it's fine. He just, Clippers won playing for them. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. It's just.
I don't want to speculate either, but I do want to jump off a bridge.
The one thing that came out.
I'm unbothered.
Sunglasses on, feet up. Cold drinks, Derek Jones Jr., James Harden lobs. We are feeling good, folks.
Let's
see you at the 9 seed.
Deflect from that pain with Paul George's podcast and talking about how he said he was offered 2 for $60. He didn't like that. If that was the case, nobody can confirm something like that. But someone could, but nobody's going to. Then he was eventually offered the 150, and he said something to the effect of, well, now we're in the ballpark. When he had already said, just give me what Kawhi got. You guys value us the same, right? But then it sounded like when they did give him what Kawhi got, he didn't want to do it without a no-trade clause, which Kawhi did not get.
Which is a poison pill in the NBA. Nobody gets those anymore. And anytime a player does, it's pretty widely regarded as a bad deal.
And it's by default. You get one if you're traded, like whatever. But no, he's used. I don't know. I just don't care.
It's LeBron and Bradley Beal that have no trade clauses. That's it.
Yeah, right.
That is it. I can understand after what happened with Blake asking for it. But I can also understand the Clippers not giving it. Because I think about these things. I think about the Blake situation.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't go into that contract negotiation and signing him saying, oh, we're going to trade him in 6 months. They saw how things materialized. They saw him deteriorating with his health, and they knew they had to get out of this sooner than later. So when Steve Ballmer tells Paul George he wants him to be a Clipper for life, it's like, well, I do think he meant that. But if the circumstances start to change, you have to be flexible and change with them.
Just like Paul George and wanting a championship.
So you need a tradable contract.
That's what happened. I like this quote from Starman Hove. Don't even try to find logic in a PG quote.
If he was hurt about the 2 for $60, if that was real, and therefore he wanted more than Kawhi and was bitter because of that, I still don't love it. Like, first of all, weren't all the reports, as we were talking about this for months, didn't we all assume that the 3 for 150 was there during the season as well?
We did assume that, yes.
Well, I believe that that they got there, and it was just the NTC thing. I think I just think it's an insane ask. I understand it from the player's perspective. Obviously, why would you take less money if you can't control your destination? I mean, I understand it from his perspective 100%, but from the perspective of the Clippers, like, it just doesn't. It doesn't really make sense, and it just wasn't warranted. It wasn't warranted, despite him having a really efficient season. He again missed a large swath of the season. He again did not look the same when he came back from that injury.
Well, remember, we speculated when he was really struggling in January and February. For 2 straight months, he averaged under 20 points per game. We thought he's either hurt or the contract negotiation stuff maybe is getting to him a little bit.
Or he's being a big baby.
And he did say on the podcast that, yeah, it affected his play. There was an emotional side to it. Now, regarding that text about Kawhi being the number 1 option, yeah, the first thing I thought, and I tweeted this out right afterwards with the clip of him saying, if you value us the same, I said the problem is you didn't value yourself the same. Right. You didn't. It's one thing to be the 1A or 1B, the 1B, I guess, to Kawhi's 1A. It's another to kind of out of nowhere, unprompted, just make the point that, I'm the number 2. Just so you guys know, I'm the number 2. No, was anyone asking if you were the number 2? I don't get it.
We got another Kawhi tweet update, and
Let's
this will be the last one. Law Murray ran into Kawhi. He's in good spirits. Found out yesterday that his USA run would be cut short, but still planning on getting some work in before he leaves to get ready for fall. Also, he says he's never cutting his hair. LOL. I'm back on the board. Clippers 82-0. See you at the chip. End of stream. No.
Back
How
up.
Does that you got
Put the word out. Put the word out.
Put the word out, everybody. That's funny.
Dallas Rutherford also kind of apologized in his way.
I don't give a shit.
If you're
who? Never heard of him.
Social media guru? DR, bro? Dallas. I don't care what
the Paul
George's friends think.
I think Paul George is a really nice guy, a good guy, means well. I will be rooting for Paul George moving forward unless he's playing the Clippers.
Will you?
But I completely understand from both sides. Nobody's a victim here. They couldn't strike a deal. They couldn't find common ground. That's okay. It doesn't mean anybody won the negotiation or lost the negotiation. They could both win the negotiation. They could both lose the negotiation.
I think they both won in this scenario.
I agree.
To be honest with you, I think they both won. They're just the max wasn't going to happen. It doesn't make sense to extend Paul George at that amount of money past Kawhi's timeline. It doesn't make sense for them to give him a no trade clause just in case things did go sour, whether you intended to keep him at 3 for $50 or not. And after 5 seasons, I just feel like that's enough of a sample size. Look, man, even with a young team, let's say, look at Oklahoma City right now. Even hoping that they have 4 more years in this run, I still think is that's about the max. That's really about all you can hope for. It's 5 years of a championship window. That's long as hell in this league. And it just wasn't going to happen. And it wasn't going to happen this year with PG, and certainly not without him. But I think that they both won this negotiation.
Do you guys feel any better or worse about them not signing Paul George or re-signing him based upon what we heard today regarding Kawhi? Because if anything, I'm like, well, if Kawhi's not going to be available or still dealing with this, what does it matter if they have Paul George? They can't win it.
I mean, that was my thing. I don't want to go. I've seen a lot of the movies. I've seen a lot of movies multiple times. I do not want to go to that movie again. You know what I mean?
I've heard this phrase multiple times.
It's not Joe Dirt, right? It's not Ocean's 11. It's not Remember the Titans. I don't want to see that movie again. I don't want to see Paul George be like, wow, this is great. And we can't trade him and we just suck ass and then we have to pay more attention to his podcast. No.
He's also a loser. I'm really glad that he's not on the team for that fact. He is a loser. It was really hard to defend him so much. Man, we fought in the trenches of the Paul George army, and I am so glad to be relieved of duty.
I think, yeah.
It was hard.
A polite no. Is that
his mixed messaging? And there was a new one on the pod right after the season.
Right.
Or during the year when they got James Harden, he said, "This is great. I can do more of the dirty work stuff, some of the little stuff, the role player stuff to make up for the loss of Batum and Rocco. I can show off my defensive acumen." And then when the season was over, he started talking about how, we lost Batum and Rocco, and all of a sudden Kawhi and I have to do the dirty work. It's just like, my guy, it's recorded. It's on tape. People are going to use that against you. And
he dressed up as Waldo. He doesn't know what's going on. He's right here. He's not out here. He's an A. There's A to B people, and there's A, B, C to D people. A to beer.
And to address the thing too, because people are
wonderful at basketball.
People are saying, did we choose to build around the wrong guy? And I have to be honest with you. If it came down to letting Paul George walk or even letting injured Kawhi walk, I would have rather kept Kawhi. Like, I get that it's a very slim chance that he's going to play in a postseason again.
Paul George could be hurt too.
I still like our odds a little bit better in the theoretical healthy postseason with Kawhi rather than Paul George.
And guess what? Like when Kawhi plays, he plays like a top 5 player. When Paul George plays, he may be a top 10 player. He may be a top 40 player. I don't know what you're getting that night. Right. He does, when he's on the court, Kawhi Leonard takes on the responsibility of being the leader and the number one option always.
And for this quote right here, and we're probably going to end on this and then a positive thing from Adam. Supposedly he has a special speech. Edwards saying, "I don't trust Kawhi saying healthy anymore. Insanity." No one's trusting it. We're just here, man. No one is believing.
Edward, what's the option? What's the other option?
I want him to be healthy. I don't think he's going to be healthy.
I'm saying at this point, I'm more inclined to believe that Kawhi will not play another postseason with the Clippers than he will win a first-round series with the Clippers. But, hey, man, this is where we're at. We're going to make the best of it. Let's have some fun, guys.
Let's have some fun. Kick your feet up. Adam might be on Have Fun Island now. I think he might be.
It depends on how you define it.
Fun is having some building blocks and no real expectations and a defensive team with some guys who can jump out of the gym.
I mean, I don't hate it. I guess my point of positivity doesn't quite fly in the face of that. But if you guys listen to this show, typically Chuck will throw it to me at the very end and I'll pull something out of my ass that's positive after maybe some real negative topics and difficult topics, because anything that's topical we will get into here on Clips and Dip, no matter how tough it is sometimes, no matter what mood we're in. If you guys will allow me to rant for a second, I just have real concerns and don't want this 2-1-3 experience to make Clipper Nation shy away and be afraid to fail or something. Because I've been hearing this for 2 years now from people that they liked it more when they were just the little engine that could team, the good job, good effort team, a lovable loser type of team, the 2018-2019 team that took Golden State to 6 games. I don't want you to be in that safe space of not having to worry about underachieving. Like, if anything, I want the disappointment to make you hungrier. This 2-1-3 era, to make you feel like you were close, to make you feel like you were robbed and you had something taken from you because of bad luck and injuries. And if anything, I'm hoping this will motivate you to want the Clippers to win even more. It doesn't mean there are going to be some, lean years. There will be some. That's part of the journey and life cycle.
Cutting phase next season.
Look, sometimes the forest gets overgrown. A natural fire restores order. These are all part of the circle of life of the sports team. And I also agree with Giannis when he got into it with that reporter and said, there's steps along the way. And every season you didn't win isn't necessarily a failure when those lessons could very well set you on that path to being a championship team down the line. But you got to accept heartbreak. And I know you've been through a lot of it, Clipper Nation, the ridicule, the doubters, the detractors, the naysayers, the trolls, all of it. But you have to deal with that if you want the glory of getting to the top of the mountain at some point and the respect that comes with it if it's not a bubble ring. No one said it was going to be easy. If it would, it wouldn't taste so sweet. I mean, think about it. If it was harder for Kevin Durant, maybe he wouldn't be arguing and trying to justify his legacy on Twitter all the time, winning those 2 rings with Golden State. There's no sweet without the sour. There's no shortcuts to fulfillment. I don't want to see anyone get comfortable with playing it safe, where your championship is a 20-point comeback during the regular season against an elite team on the road in January, an opponent that has their eyes on a bigger prize. I don't want you to accept being the spoiler or just nipping at the heels of giants in this league. The Clippers are in the big leagues now. They're a destination franchise, a legit threat.
Long term.
They have Steve Ballmer. Now is not the time to retreat and back away from that responsibility because you have the owner, and he's competitive as hell in Steve Ballmer, and it's only been a decade with him. They've already taken leaps and bounds forward. Keep going. You have to endure pain along the way. It will be worth it. Someday it will be. Continue to go forward and strive to be a championship organization. And then you can say you were there from the ground floor, the first championship ever. It will be meaningful. Now, it doesn't mean the front office should go out and be reckless and just spend to go over the second apron for Wiggins.
Guy wants LaVine. Guy wants to win a chip.
Wouldn't be over the second apron and get a first-round pick. It doesn't mean you're just foolish like that just to appear like you're trying to win this season when we know if they made a trade with Golden State for Paul George to get Wiggins and Moody, it doesn't really do much for you. It just puts you in cap hell.
Sure.
It just means stay ready for the opportunity because there could be one.
Long term.
Just like the one we just went through, which in many ways in the 2-1-3 era was good process. Bringing in a guy fresh off a finals MVP and a guy who just finished top 3 in MVP voting and Defensive Player of the Year voting. Look, in other timelines on Earth 2, 3, 4, and 5, a universe without Joe Ingles, there's a great chance that move leads to a ring or 2.
The universe without Joe Ingles has already evolved past a space that needs basketball to entertain themselves.
I'm just saying, just because 2-1-3 in that era ultimately failed, mostly because of things outside of their control with injuries, does not mean that they are cursed or destined to fail, or you should be afraid to dip your toe back in the water and get scared of championship expectations because they could crush you. Get back on the grind. Find a way. Do not let unfortunate luck over the last 5 years deter you from staying the course. 10 to a dome.
Now is, as a fan, obviously stick with the team. If you leave now, come on. It's also a great time to pick a random favorite player. Pick a random favorite guy who might be with the team for a while. Will, counterpoint to Adam, give us the negative side of that. You get twice as much time. No,
no, I mean, I'd say, like, can we just get back to having some fun with it? Like, talking about good
that's where we are.
Like, talking about good process, it's important for the team, but it's, like, also just an important reset for fans. Like, let's just get back to doing our thing, talking our shit, having a fun time. Like, you know, we don't need to worry about, like, the crushing defeat or anything, but it doesn't mean that this team can't do shit. Like, that was what was so exciting about 18-19 is, like, there was a little bit of belief. Like, yes, I was insane enough to think it's not crazy to think they could get out of this series with the Warriors, and that's what's fun. But you have to enjoy the little steps along the way. So we tripped up. Like, it's fine. Like, we're gonna keep on going.
I say it all the time. But if ownership is the biggest advantage in sports, then the Clippers clearly have an advantage with Steve Ballmer. They do. They do. And you do have to appreciate the journey in all parts of it. As rough as the last 5 years have been, my central point is I just don't want everyone clamoring for, oh, I miss the old Clippers when we were just trying to get above 500 that season. Because at some point, if you're going to win a championship, you have to deal with these expectations and sometimes the failures that come with them, like we've seen the last 5 years. It's all part of it. It sucks. It's tough, but it's the only way.
And look at the turnaround that those 2 years brought. Like in 2 years, just an insane turnaround for this team. It didn't ultimately end up successful, but like that's exciting to think where we could be 2 years from this.
100%. It's going to be Chip City, some would say. Chip of the summer, possibly. I'm
excited for this season.
It's going to be a fun time.
I really
I'm excited to watch Cam Christie in Summer League. Hope Kobe Brown looks good. Like, we're going to be an annoying-ass team that's defensive, and that rules.
We talked about getting more wings. They brought back Batum. That became official today. Derrick Jones Jr. did some social media on the Clippers X account. These guys,
so stupid.
It's going to be fun watching them.
It's going to be a good time. There's going to be lobs for days.
Dude, we can do some Photoshops with some hard hats, you know?
Yeah. I'm excited to see the schedule release video because the only players in it are probably going to be Kobe Brown and Cam Christie.
I want to see Zubac exploited to the fullest extent.
Excuse us? Expand
in a good way. I want them to spam Ivica Zubac and him being a hub on offense and getting more touches.
You spelled exploit with 3 X's when you said that.
I need Big Zoo to finally be fully unleashed.
No more Big Plum. Now we need Big Zoo. I think that about
the NBA's first 100-point game.
Yeah, the first one that's caught on tape. Why is there no footage?
The only first one.
The only first one. All right, that about wraps it up. We got to go. I mean, Team USA plays Canada. I hope we beat those Canucks. Yeah, we'll be back probably next week. I don't know if we're gonna do a Friday show. We talked about a bunch of good stuff. If anything crazy happens, we'll hop on again. We'll be back next week. Adam already did his positivity thing. Will, where can these wonderful people find us who might be listening on audio?
If you're just listening on audio, you should be here hanging out with us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. But hey, if you're not hanging out on the stream, you're not watching over on YouTube, you can listen to us wherever you get your audio podcast. If you happen to listen over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead, leave a little rating and review. We'd really appreciate it. But yeah, we're happy however you consume this thing. Let's go Clips.
Let's go Clips. Adam, you look like you have something you want to say before we get out of here.
Where's the dips today, boys?
It was impromptu. It was alive.
I didn't have one either, so I'm happy.
Yeah. We'll talk.